I'm sitting on the brand new Aviron Fit Bike, and in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Aviron Fit Bike and tell you everything about its specifications, everything that it offers, so that way you can have the knowledge and your buying power to decide if maybe it's the right fit for you in your fitness journey. Just to keep things totally transparent, Aviron did send me the bike for an honest review, but they did not pay me to make this video or pay me to talk, a certain way about the bike. So first, let's talk about the construction of the bike and its overall design. I've tried quite a few exercise bikes in my day, and I gotta say that this bike is one of the most sturdy exercise bikes that I've used. But for good reason. This thing weighs about 140 pounds, or just shy of that. The user weight capacity is 350 pounds, which means it's gonna work for most people. Now, of course, to address the elephant in the room, or should I say the giraffe in the room, I always have to comment on how well exercise equipment fits for myself, considering that I am 6 foot 8 inches tall. And I'm pleased to say that it fits me great. There are 4 main points of adjustment on the bike. And the biggest concern when it comes to height is how high the seat can go. And I'm pleased to say that it fits my 36-inch inseam perfectly, and it can even adjust higher than that safely. And of course, it adjusts nice and low for you shorties out there too. It's also important for bigger, taller people to have a good knee position when they're cycling. And what's nice about the adjustment here, this horizontal adjustment gives you a nice range of motion to scoot that seat more forward or more back. Now, in my previous experience, if the seat height fits for a tall person, usually your knees hit the handlebars, but this has an adjustment for the horizontal position of the handlebars, so you can scoot them either farther away or closer. And of course, too, you can adjust the handlebars up and down. Oh, and you can also adjust these handles. You can angle them up or down if you'd like to. But I will say that angling them up too high can get in the way of the screen. So with those 4 big points of adjustment, this is truly a bike that's gonna fit almost any body type. There is one slightly concerning part about the adjustment of the seat and the construction of the seat that's a little worrisome, but I already got confirmation that this is going to be addressed in the models that are shipping out to everyone else. But essentially, it's this bar that sits right below the seat, and it kinda can rub on your inner thighs. And I'd say I have fairly lean and muscular thighs, but even with that, my inner thighs kind of rub on this little metal bar that sits below the seat, where it adjusts horizontally. And if you're somebody with bigger thighs, you can imagine how that would kind of irritate your skin over the course of a long bike ride. But like I said, this issue is being addressed with the models of the bike that are being shipped out, but I just felt the need to point that out. This bike is constructed of reinforced steel, so this thing is sturdy. It also comes with a small dumbbell rack, which you can purchase as a separate addition to the bike, and a water bottle holder too. I also think that the foot pedals on this bike are a little bit of a higher quality than you'd find on a lot of other cheaper bikes. The plastic that kind of holds the top of your shoe feels just a lot sturdier and less prone to breaking or tearing over time. Another feature of the construction that I really like about the bike is that the flywheel is actually on the back side rather than the front, which is where you find it on most exercise bikes. But usually when it's in the front, if you're a really sweaty person like me, you're just dripping sweat onto the flywheel. So since it's back here, you can imagine it can last a lot longer because you don't have a bunch of sweat dripping on it. The flywheel also uses electromagnetic resistance rather than just magnetic plates that you find on a lot of more cheap exercise bikes. This gives it a ton of different resistance settings, which you can adjust just with a touch of a button on the screen. Speaking of the screen, that is where all the fun is to be had. The bike comes with a 22-inch HD monitor, touchscreen, and everything. So let's get into the monitor because there is a lot to cover here, but this is the real meat of what the bike has to offer for you. So when you first get the bike, you can create a profile for yourself, unless you are already an owner of the Aviron rower, in which case the profiles actually just seamlessly intertwine with each other. I logged in on the bike with my same account that I have on the Aviron rower, and it transferred my friends list and everything over, including the experience coins that you use to purchase customizable aspects of your workout. But once you've created a profile for yourself, you're all ready to go. And the first thing you'll see there is the quick start button, which brings you to the main metrics monitor. Now, this is the most basic feature on the bike, and it gives you a breakdown of time, watts, speed, calories, your output in kilojoules, your cadence or your RPM, your rotations per minute, and your heart rate if you've got a Bluetooth connected heart rate monitor. You'll also notice at the bottom where you can see all of the different resistance levels, ranging from 10 up to 160. So how do these resistances actually feel? Well, we're gonna do a raw audio and video sound test and speed test for the lowest setting, 10, the medium setting, 80, and the highest setting, 160. So let's check out what these resistances actually look like practically. Resistance 80. Whew. Resistance 160. Woo! So you can see there at the lowest resistance setting, it was really, really low, really easy feeling. But even going up to the moderate resistance of 80, I started to feel like, okay, if I kept this up for a while, even for someone like myself who is quite active, does a lot of aerobic exercise, I knew I was gonna start feeling it after a couple minutes. And then of course, cranking it all the way up to 160, that got tough really quickly. And I'd say I was most impressed with how quickly the bike can adjust to those different resistance settings. On the rower, it takes a little bit more time for the resistance to really kind of catch up and change, but here on the bike, it only took a couple of seconds before you adjusted right to the resistance that you chose. And the fact that there's no gear to crank or anything like that in order to make those quick adjustments, that it's just a quick touch of the screen, is pretty cool. Now, as far as how it calculates your miles per hour based on your resistance setting, it seems a little bit off. Even if I was pedaling as fast as I could at the lowest resistance settings, it would show that I'm going 2 to 3 miles per hour, which just isn't quite right. Or on the flip side, if I was on the max resistance and pedaling really slow and heavy, it would say I'm upwards of 20 plus miles per hour. So there might need to be some fine tuning with that discrepancy between what the miles per hour number is actually saying and meaning, I guess. So what's cool is at the end of your metrics monitor session, or really anything else you do on the Aviron, it gives you a nice detailed breakdown of a variety of different metrics that you did and had while you were biking. It gives you summaries for your total output, your watts, your calories per hour, your miles per hour, and your RPM. Some of those metrics are more useful than others. I find it interesting to see when your rate is graphed, like calories per hour, and seeing those fluctuations is a much more usable metric than just seeing the kind of calorie count increase. It reminds me of calculus and seeing the slope of your calorie burn basically determining like how quickly you were burning calories or not. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's not necessarily the most useful thing. This is a similar thing on the rower as well, by the way, but it's still nice to have that there, I suppose. But especially being able to see how your watts played out, how your RPM played out, and your calories per hour, I would say those are the most important metrics to be able to see the change and variability of each workout. So that's there for your info. And it's good that it's there because metric knowledge is power for you to improve upon yourself each time you go back for a workout. Next up, we have their newest game feature called SkyQuest, where you can choose from a variety of different levels and different vehicle options, where you soar through the sky and fly through these different rings to score points. You pedal faster, you pedal harder, the vehicle goes up, you slow yourself down, and the vehicle angles downward. And you can change the intensity of the game with a simple tap on the screen on the right side. So whether you're not super fit or you're super new to cycling or you're more advanced, you can find a level that works for you. Now personally, I find the game to be a little bit slower paced and the music that plays was a little bit monotonous. The music choice just wasn't my cup of tea, but you can have a listen here and judge for yourself. Of course, the music and the volume, totally optional and adjustable. At one point during my playthrough, I had to really get my vehicle to angle downwards to get a ring at the bottom. And no matter how slow I went, I couldn't get down low enough where I needed to be. But it was easy for my vehicle to get all the way up if I pedaled hard and fast enough. So maybe just a little bit more discrepancy in the vehicle angle based off of how hard or soft you go. Maybe that's just a bug that needs to be worked out. I don't know. You also have the My Apps feature where you get access to basically every single streaming platform you can think of, including YouTube, including Kindle, and their latest edition, TikTok. That's right, you can watch TikToks on your bike while you're working out on the big screen. However, note that the screen does not rotate to fit the vertical nature of those videos. And as of right now, there are 9 different games within the games category that you can choose to play and work out to on the bike. The first game I tried was the new Fishin' Frenzy, where you can select which duration of the game that you want to play. You can choose between 3 different difficulty levels, and you can also customize your main character as well as the background for the game. And side note, all these different customization options are unlocked as you earn experience coins, which you get for the minutes that you spend doing the different activities on the bike. And just like any games in life, some are hit, some are miss, but this Fishing Frenzy one was actually pretty fun. As you change your pedaling speed to adjust your fishing hook to hook a variety of different fish, which you have to essentially pedal as hard as you can in order to chip away at their health and collect them for points. But once again, the resistance settings had a big play in how much damage you did. If I was on a light resistance setting and going as hard as I can, I was barely chipping away at the damage, whereas if I went to maximum resistance with just a few slow, hard pedals, I was getting big chunks of health taken off from the fish. So you could kind of cheese it by going high resistance and pedaling slow. Maybe there just needs to be a little bit more balancing as far as the calibration of resistance and how much health you chip away, etc. I also played Boss Breaker, which I believe used to be called Ball Breaker. I wonder why they changed that. And I love this game because it reminds me of my days as a kid sitting at the family PC and playing the Ball Breaker game. I think it was even called Ball Breaker back on the PC. And your goal is to get your ball to bounce on your platform so that it can go up and destroy the bricks that are above. Once you clear all the bricks, you clear the level. But the platform doesn't move side to side. The more you pedal, the bigger the platform gets. Once again, at very low resistances, no matter how fast I went, I couldn't get the platform to grow very big compared to if I brought the resistance all the way up and did a few slow, hard pedals that very quickly got the platform to the max distance to essentially make the level unfailable. Just another example of how I think there needs to be a little bit more tuning that goes into, you know, the differences between these resistance levels and the overall output, and the advantage that gives you in certain games. By the way, you'll notice that throughout all the things that you try on the Aviron bike, you are constantly gaining experience points and achievements which stack up on your profile for others to see. So if you're a hardcore gamer guy like myself, getting a bunch of achievements, especially early on in your experience, is a really rewarding feeling. Next up is the competition mode, where you can race against essentially AI-generated discs as you race across a futuristic race course. Now, this is one of the oldest and most long-lasting features across the Aviron platforms, but it seems to be pretty poorly tuned for the bike as of now. Usually in this mode, you can choose from different difficulty levels, but it didn't come with any difficulty levels this time around. And even at a moderate resistance and a moderate pace, I just blew past the one-on-one competitions and even the Grand Prix, where after just 30 seconds, I was 5 times more output than the second closest competitor. Probably a mode best saved to play against your friends. And there probably needs to be another update for that mode specifically to re-add in the difficulty levels or adjust it to have more variability and more challenge for those that might be a little more advanced. Next up, we have Power Play, which is a combination of games and guided workouts blended together, where you have more customizable options between your vehicle and the course that you choose, as well as a ton of different options for the guided workouts. What's nice about these workouts is that they streamline your focus into either your RPM, your output, your watts, or your resistance level. And essentially your vehicle changes lanes to gather points based off of whether you're hitting the workout objective or not. I think this is one of the better psychological ways to keep you engaged in a really intense workout. And with so much variety to choose from in that mode, you're gonna find something that works for you. Plus, you gotta unlock all those different car skins and background drops anyway to empower the inner gamer within you. And next up is the Pros versus Joes category, where on the rower you would be racing against other essentially high-level rowing athletes, one-on-one, to see how you stacked up compared to them. I got my butt kicked on a lot of those rows. Here on the bike, it's not a feature that's actually out yet. So if you click on it, it'll say, oh, Pros versus Joes will be coming soon. For now, hang tight. Gotta admit, I was definitely curious to see how I stacked up next to other cycling folks, because I have a rowing background, not a cycling background. But come on, I bet I could be somebody. So we'll see when that feature comes out, how it actually plays out, and how good those other competitors really are. That's gonna be a good feature for people that are super competitive and really wanna see how they stack up against the most elite of the elite. The next feature, and one that I was the most curious about, are the coached classes. As someone who has my own coach classes on the Aviron rower through the rowing workouts, I was really curious to see how these cycling instructors were, especially considering that these cycling instructors actually get to do their coach classes in a professional studio. Unlike my coach classes, which are, let's just say, a little bit more grassroots. So far they have a nice collection of workouts that last between 10 and 40 minutes with a variety of different instructors. I tried to get a little taste of each of the instructors to see what they were all about, and honestly they're all pretty decent. They give you the information that you need, they help you with your posture, they remind you of the RPMs and intensity and what that's supposed to feel like. I would say they were all around the same quality. The instructor Brian looked suspiciously a lot like myself, and the other coaches, Sarah, Lizon, and Kyle, were all just fine. They were all cool. I will say there was nothing that I was like blown away from as far as from how they were instructing or their energy levels, but I would say for just like a nice, like good quality class, like it was a good time. And I have like no hard complaints about anyone, and they all did sound like they knew what they were talking about, and that it wasn't their first time on a bike. Now, I did notice that during some of the coach classes, the RPM suggestions and the intensity suggestions sometimes weren't quite matching up with what the instructor said. That just seems like a simple editing error, and it's not the end of the world, but it'd be nice for all of that to match up with what the instructors were saying. For example, in this workout with Kyle, he was instructing us to stay around a 72 to 78 cadence, and that we were at a low intensity, but it was reporting that we were supposed to be in the 60s with our cadence at a high intensity at the very start of the workout. So little things like that aren't the end of the world, but they're worth noting. Now, what was interesting about trying out each of the coached classes is that it would say it was completed even if I only did like a couple minutes of the class. And I think that there should be some sort of software, something that prevents it from saying that you completed the class unless you really finished it all the way. I feel like if I really wanted to, I could kind of cheat the system and do just like a minute or two of each of the workouts to say that I completed them all. And that's not fair to people who actually do complete them all. I'm sure that wouldn't be too hard to implement, and I would say that's probably my biggest criticism of the classes. Okay, next up we have guided workouts, which I would say is probably the best overall experience for the bike. Essentially, you get an AI coach that coaches you through a ton of different workout formats. Workouts that can be just done on the bike or in combination with body weight or dumbbell exercises. And I think the overall UI and the AI instruction with these workouts really promotes good intensity and quality efforts in a structured workout format where you don't really have to think too much about what's going on, and you're very much in the moment focusing on what it's telling you to do. I was at my heart pumpiest and sweatiest following through the guided workouts. And I think my only critique of the guided workouts is that there's just so many to choose from. It can be really overwhelming to decide which one you want to go for when there's so many choices. But is that a bad thing? I don't know. What's nice too is that you can easily skip certain parts of the guided workouts with just a simple tap on the screen. For example, this warm-up seemed a little long for what I was looking to do, and I was already pretty warm from the other stuff I was doing, so all I have to do is tap the screen to skip the warm-up and get right into the work. I really do think that the guided workouts is where the Aviron bike has shined the most. And last but not least, as far as main features go, you have the virtual rides, where you can choose from a huge selection of different locations all across the world for very simple follow-along rides. What I find interesting about these virtual rides compared to other ones on other machines is that if you stop pedaling, the video actually stops as well. So it doesn't feel like it's just a YouTube video playing on its own, even if you're just sitting there doing nothing. And while you're riding, you get access to the basic metrics that you would want to see while you're riding. So if you're into that sort of thing, it's there for you. So something that's not super well shown on the screen, and maybe this could be implemented into the main bar of the main things you can choose from, but it's the structured programs that you can find kind of in the top right corner. What's nice about these programs is that they're built out into multiple weeks with a variety of workouts already built into them that you will unlock one workout at a time. And I would say if you're somebody who feels a little overwhelmed with all of the different options and things to do on the Aviron, the structured programs are really where it's at, because it will put together all sorts of different workouts from all of the different main features, so that way you get a nice taste of everything while also working and progressing level to level as you work through the program, which helps work on the sort of game psychology aspect that Aviron is known to do. So if I was brand new to the Aviron bike, I would first tell you to go check out one of the coach classes just to get a feel for the bike and learn how to properly set it up. And then I would suggest just choosing one of those structured programs to work through, so that way you can get a nice taste of the variety that the bike has to offer. And speaking of the gamified experience, you have access to leaderboards for every single different program and workout on the bike, a friends list where you can add people, do workouts with them, compare your stats to them, as well as monthly challenges that give you a nice goal for each month and medals to collect that can be added to your achievements collection. So if you feel like you're somebody who always has to unlock all the stuff, there's always something new to unlock and always someone better than you. And those kind of aspects, I think, make the Aviron really unique and will help push a lot of people to keep exercising consistently, which at the end of the day, that's really what we're just trying to do in order to see the results that we're looking to see with any sort of exercise. So as of now, for the bike on its own, this bike is running at $2,000, which granted, there definitely are more expensive stationary bikes out there, but there's also a lot more affordable ones too. And so is this bike gonna be worth it to you? I think it's really important to ask yourself, what kind of person are you? What do you need to help you drive consistency day to day, week to week when it comes to your workouts? If you're somebody who just can't stick to anything, you always feel like you're bored when you're working out, you don't really know what to do, you just kind of are like, yeah, I don't know, then something like this would be a really good option for you, because there's so much variety, and at the end of the day, you can always just stream from it too, or work on getting all the achievements for all the different games. There's all sorts of modalities at play to keep you engaged if you're somebody who just has such a hard time staying engaged. Now, if you're somebody who has a little bit more of kind of an old school work ethic and you don't need a lot of, different kind of stimuli to keep you motivated, keep you engaged, and keep you working hard, then this probably isn't for you. I think we often forget that everyone has a different workout psychology. Again, this bike is great for some individuals and is not going to be the right choice for others. But is it worth it to you? That is for you to decide, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And I'd love for you to bring up anything that I missed or anything that you're curious about that I could answer for you as well. And I'll be keeping a close eye on all of those little critiques that I had mentioned as well to see if they get fixed over time. And if there's one thing I know about Aviron as a company, is that anytime there's been a critique or something that I was like, I don't know about this, they fix it right away. So that'll be cool to see. And it's software, so it's constantly being updated, constantly new things being added to it. So I think there's gonna be a lot to look forward to in the future. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe for more fitness, rowing, and product review content as well. But I'm Austin with Training Tall, signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.